Talked about major and minor chords, but songs aren't just chords in isolation, they're chords strung together into structures, into repeating patterns. These are what we call chord progressions. Simply just stringing a few chords together in a repeating pattern creates a progression. So we could go C, G, A minor, F, and that's a chord progression which we could use as the foundation of a song. Now, certain chord progressions get used time and time again, and to make it easier to describe chord progressions, we sometimes don't refer to them by the actual chords that are getting used, like C, G, A minor, and F. We instead relate it back to the major scale, and we might describe it as 1, 5, 6, and 4. And what those numbers mean is it's the first chord of the major scale, the fifth chord of the major scale, the sixth, and the fourth. So let's take C major as an example for that. We were saying before that C major is all the white notes on the piano, so it keeps it a little bit easier to envision, a bit easier to see. So the first note of the C major scale is C, second note is D, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, back to where we started, just an octave higher. So, if we had a chord progression that went C, G, A minor, F, well, the chord C is number 1 because it's the first note of the major scale. The chord G is built on the fifth note of the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we call it the fifth chord, number 5. The next chord, A minor, is on the sixth degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And same for the fourth degree, F. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 1, 5, 6, 4. Now, something you might have seen when people talk about these sort of chord progressions in terms of numbers rather than note names is they don't use your normal numbers, they'll use Roman numerals. And this is done ultimately to make it clear that you're talking about a chord progression, because there's other times in music where you might be talking about numbers, but for different reasons. So the main thing to bear in mind is if you see Roman numerals, it's a chord progression. That's basically the only instance where we use Roman numerals in music theory. And on top of that, if it's uppercase Roman numerals, they'll be talking about major chords. And if it's lowercase, they'll be talking about minor chords. So what we could do is describe our C, G, A minor, F chord progression as 1, so in Roman numerals let's say capital I, 5, which is a capital V, A minor, which is a lowercase V and I, remember lowercase means minor, and F is our fourth chord, so it'll be I, V, but in uppercase. Now you might think, well, why are we complicating this by describing it in Roman numerals? Why can't we just call it C, G, A minor, F? And you often can, but one of the reasons it's valuable to understand that these are chords 1, 5, 6, and 4 is because the relationships between those chords are the same no matter whether we started on C or on a different note. So, for example, if we did the first, fifth, sixth, and fourth chord, but starting on D, on our D major scale, we get this chord progression, which, as you can hear, has the same quality. It sounds the same, just that little bit higher, because we've started on D instead. Because it's still 1, 5, 6, 4, but now based on the D major scale instead.